Hello, everybody. It's Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to this week's Bodacity Show. I'm really happy to have you, and I'm really happy to have our fabulous guest, Norma Hollis, who I just recently met, but I swear she is a sister from another mister. We have a lot of the same stand in the world around, really, who are you choosing to be? And then how do you live into that? She has been doing a lot of the approaching of this from research and investigation into the topic of authenticity. Lots of people talk about it, and you hear it all the time, so much so that that word has almost become cliche, but it's so critical. Norma's here today to talk about how to be authentic. Welcome. I'm really happy you're here.
Well, Jeanette, thank you. I'm delighted to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
So let
Yeah.
me give you Norma's official bio, and then I'm going to get some kind of juicy, salacious information from her, and then we'll launch into the topic of authenticity. That's how we roll here on the Bodacity Show. We want the juicy bits, okay? Norma Hollis is a change agent who impacts the world in multiple ways. She writes programs for human development around the theme of authenticity and turns them into training processes to deepen self-awareness and expand consciousness. Norma and her programs are catalysts for people who are open to gaining new perspectives about self, life, and living. What I know from kind of engaging with you earlier is that you approach it both from a really artistic perspective, but also a really intellectual perspective. We'll talk about your grid or your processing framework later. But in the meantime, that's all the official stuff. Now, tell us something you wouldn't guess just reading your bio or your books or that kind of thing.
I have this hobby that is a little unusual that I picked up when I was a teenager. And I love to hook rugs. I love to latch hook rugs. And so latch hook is where you're putting every strand in that rug, you're putting in one at a time. And I have about 3 rugs that are 6 foot by 8 foot. I love to make really big ones. I have one on my wall now. It's a long one, and it'll have actually the one that I share for my program and I train by way of my grid is a rug that I hooked. I just, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that grid one. It's really complex, and
Yeah,
that it's each thread at a time, and it's huge. It's huge.
it's huge.
There's
Yes.
something behind you right now. That's really cool, and it's also probably very therapeutic. I literally was just talking to a woman who used to run a military base, and she quilts and wants to bring that to soldiers with PTSD as a very therapeutic way of dealing with your hands, your stress, your thinking. It's a brilliant way to be creative and
Yes.
also deal with some stress. So cool.
Yeah, it does
Speaking
do
of
that.
stress,
Yes.
let's talk about authenticity because you know what? Sometimes that stresses people out. They, frankly, they think, what the hell does that mean? How do I do that? And there's a lot of that word gets thrown around a lot. What
Yes.
do you mean by authenticity?
It's true. People say all the time, well, just be authentic. Like you can wake up or snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're authentic. It doesn't work like that though, because being authentic to me means really stepping into who you really are, knowing what the gifts and talents you were born with. We're all born with a set of gifts and talents that make us really unique. So it's about knowing what those gifts and talents are, being connected with them. It's also being connected with the universe as a whole, because life itself is not just what we can see, feel, and touch. It's also what we can think, what we can not just we can feel on the inside. We feel it in different ways. And there's energies around us that you can't always define, but authenticity means aligning those energies with the ones that make you, that make you be able to touch things and feel things. And it's all focused on the common good, being genuine. The normal definitions in the dictionary are trustworthy and sincere and genuine and honest and those kind of things. But I take it deeper into the substance of who you are, that the substance of who you are comes out, and you allow it to come out, that you have it focused on the common good, more in that direction.
That you're right. That is a fairly complex combination. So the substance of who you are focused on the common good because a lot of people like you said, that definition of what's the impact, being kind, being thoughtful of other people, etc. Because you could be authentically a jerk.
And there are many out there, yes.
Yes.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the better parts, more common, the more helpful parts of human nature, the things that you're born with, not suppressing you, but allowing you to blossom. And that's something that's taken from us, not really on purpose, but just life takes it from us before in our preschool years, really. We grow up, my trainings in early education and family and child life sciences. So my first career was directing preschool programs. And I used to watch, we tell kids to come on in and go wherever you want. You want to paint, you want to read a book, you want to play dramatic play, you want to go to the jungle gym, wherever you want to go. You got to go to the bathroom, please go. Whenever you need to go, just go. But then it's not long before that the kid loves to sing, comes home, loves to sing, and mom says, you're singing too loud. You're making too much noise. You're talking too loud. You're beating the drums too much, even though that's what you love to do. And so the authenticity begins to move back and back. And then we get into school and it's not go play, it's stand in line. Move when I tell you, raise your hand, do it like this. And people stay in those desks, those turn into cubicles, and that's where they live their lives. And that's where it's stripped from us. When I had my first business as a speaker bureau, that's when I learned what happens to the preschoolers who came in singing and dancing and having a good time, to the adults that said, well, I just spent 20 years in a corporate America or in a full-time job and I lost myself. I had to be who they wanted me to be and I forgot who I am. So I'm trying to find myself again. Those are instances that we go through. It's well-meaning and it's just following the life that we're told is supposed to make you successful, but it also strips you so often of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. Beautiful. And I have a bunch of questions that are popping in as you're talking. Not the least of which is I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this who go, well, yeah, that's all great, but I got to pay the bills and singing doesn't help me pay the bills. So how do we make space for authenticity and let go of that notion of we are who we have become?
First of all, who says singing won't pay the bills? It pays the bills for some people. Did you try it? Or are you just now coming after the fact and trying to do it all of a sudden? Anything you do in life that's successful takes a while to happen. So it's not like you're just going to open your mouth and start singing unless you're born with one of those voices that's way inside, which is very rare. They show up, then you go on one of those TV shows. They have plenty of those for you too. They even take you when you get a little older. And that's part of the point. Imagine if that was nurtured for you at a younger age and what you would be doing with it now. The work that I do is on that particular topic is based on the research of Dr. Howard Gardner, who identified the multiple gifts of intelligence theory. And he identifies 9 different gifts that humans have and how they learn from them. I refer to them as wisdom gifts because it's where we get our thinking, it's our come from. And what I say to people is that whatever you're doing in your career, if you're doing it in one of your top 3 of those 9 gifts, you're probably pretty happy. And if you're not using one of those gifts in your day-to-day work, I would suggest you use them in your day-to-day play or your weekend play. So don't ignore those parts of you that are naturally you. If you love to sing, you can sing in a church choir, you can sing at karaoke bands across the way, you can sing in the shower, you can do a number of things, but don't just ignore what your gift is. Use it or lose it. And see, maybe if you start now, you can plan on some ways to use it in a career. When people are retiring, often, I worked for a company once where I was helping people who were just laid off. And I'm thinking I'm going to walk into a bunch of really depressed people. And to my surprise, it was like, yippee! Now I have to do what I want to do. You could have done it in the first place. You made a choice. Right. So you can make another choice. That's really stepping into authenticity.
Love it. So let's talk about your grid and your approach to authenticity because it is quite scientific in many ways. What we're talking about here is permission to be who we want to be. And that's really that inner game. And that there's a lot of components to that. There's a lot of different aspects to that. So tell us about how you approach that.
When I started when I was 28 on this particular project, and that was when I realized I had done everything my parents had said do. I had the husband, we had cars, good job, house, all that stuff. And I was miserable. But I didn't know what to do with myself because I didn't know who I was. And that's when I started this journey of discovering, well, who the heck am I anyway? As a human being on this planet, who am I outside of my parents' view of who I am? And what I learned is I have 3 voices within me. I have an inner voice that no one hears but me. I have an outer voice, which is how people perceive me when I walk into a room or when I show up on Zoom. It's what you do on a day-to-day basis to express yourself to other people, who you have become and how you live your life. So authenticity begins in the inner voice. Now, each of those voices has 3 dimensions to them in my program. The one I want to focus on today is more the inner voice, because the inner voice is where authenticity starts. So, and that means hearing the voice that speaks within, interpreting it, trusting it, and allowing it to lead you, allowing it to guide you. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a 5-day authentic voice challenge coming up. Actually, it's next week, to help people connect with that inner voice. I'm giving you 5 days of activities and exercises that maybe you've never thought of before, because mine come from my own experiences, because I connected with my inner voice as a young 8-year-old child and have been building that relationship ever since. So it's just like when you build your authenticity, it doesn't happen overnight. The same thing with that relationship with your authenticity, your relationship with yourself. It's something that takes time to build. And so that's what I'm committed to help people understand and learn what to do, so that they can create that relationship as well. It makes such a difference in your state of mind, in your self-awareness, in your confidence, and your ability. You know, I'm looking at your banner, Jeanette, Bodacity, and I'm thinking Bodacity plus authenticity equals bold audacity. Okay.
Yeah, it actually does come from bold plus audacious.
Yeah, yeah.
The two, yep.
Absolutely. We're on the same, message there. Mine is just from the point of being yourself, and yours is taking that self and being bold with it. Absolutely. So that's what it's all about. It's really, stepping into who you are, connecting with the inner voice. When I finished my research, I owned a speakers bureau. Internet had just started, and I had connections across the United States. And so I traveled to 20 cities, and I delivered my work to speakers all around the United States. And that's when I learned that what I had found about myself was also true with other people. And so that's when I continued to develop it.
Love it. So what are the pieces of, because you mentioned the inner voice and the outer voice, what's a practical way for people, and especially women who are not used to tuning into, listening to, hearing what we want, who we are, what our longings are, what our desires are? Because for so long we've been socialized to be for other people, not for ourselves. So sometimes, who am I? Who am I? Is a really challenging question to answer for a lot of my clients, because they just aren't used to asking themselves, what do I want? What would give me pleasure? What do I long for? So what are some ways that you would suggest that people, and especially women, can find that inner desire, that inner guidance?
The first thing, it takes time. It takes carving out some time in your life to be still, to be quiet, to be able to listen to yourself. In the hustle and bustle of being a young mother, particularly with a job and potentially a husband, with or without, but with children, there's always something to do, always something to do. Mm-hmm. I have one friend, and she was raising her kids. When she got home, she would say, look, mommy has to go in the closet for 30 minutes and then leave mommy alone. Okay. then mommy will come out. Let me get my time, and I'll be with you when I get my 30 minutes in my closet. So if that's what it takes, take it. Children will understand. They need to understand boundaries anyway. And you need to set your boundaries, but you need to have some time, carve out some time in your day, or at least in your week, where you can spend some time with you. And by that, I'm listening to you. That means being quiet, no music on, just being quiet. 2 times to do that, which you can build into your life, is when you're in the shower, and you can be quiet and listen. And then when you're in the car by yourself, rather than put the music on, just tune within. Put the inside radio on and see what it might be saying to you. Because your voice is always talking to you. If you think about, there's 3 questions that you ask every single day. You ask yourself, what time is it? What am I going to wear? And what am I going to eat? And we all ask those questions every day. And you know what? You get an answer. Anybody left the house naked? Anybody haven't eaten forever or go to places late? So most of us ask those questions every day. So look at how you answer them. Can you examine how the answer comes? Next time you say, what am I going to eat? What happens? Do you think about where you are and what stores are nearby, what restaurants are nearby? Do you think about something you ate recently? Is something hitting you and reminding you your taste buds are calling? How does it come? And same thing when you ask, what am I going to wear? I remember when I lost 30 pounds about a couple decades ago, and I went shopping to a resale shop here in Los Angeles. And I found this gorgeous orange size 8 St. John suit. I still have this suit because it made me feel so good. So what I know is that whenever I have that feeling, that's that good spirit. That's that authenticity talking to me. And I pay attention because it's getting my attention. I remember how it got my attention. So what feelings do you get that get your attention? That's a way to look at how your voice is speaking and how you can pay attention so that you can interpret and trust it more effectively.
Cool. I love that. And it's very practical because it's what works for you, and what works for you might not be the same as what works for other people.
That's right.
So that's how we tune into what's our desire, what do we want? How do we then make that step, and how do you support people in making that step into being willing to express that? Because part of authenticity is it takes courage. It takes courage to be who we want to be. So how do you support people, or what do you teach people to be able to create that permission or the courage or the whatever it takes to step into that?
And that's a great question, Jeanette, because I did research about 9 months ago on authenticity. And I asked people what are their greatest fears, challenges, and frustrations. And one of the answers that was most common was having the courage to be authentic, having the courage to speak up. And it does take courage. So, a lot of it is looking at, what do you really want out of life? What is it? Are you doing life out of habit? We get into habit. I call a lot of living manufactured living. People that are really following what society says, do this, do like I did when I was 28. And everything my mother said, she told me to do what society said. I followed it and it was not working for me. So I had to step outside of it. I had a manufactured life. My mother manufactured my life and I fell into the plan. So it wasn't until I stepped out of the manufactured life, and it wasn't easy. And I was not understood. Why would you do that? Go get a job. Don't follow your voice. Don't do this and all that. And I said, I'm just going to do what I feel is right for me, what's right for my inner voice. Because if you're not allowing yourself to connect with your inner voice, you are allowing yourself to get closer to, because you're out of alignment. You're not congruent. You want to be in congruency. So there's so many things in the manufactured world that leads you to disease anyway. So you have to take your own steps to not go that way. And that means taking a step up. So part of that is setting your boundaries and knowing when you can and will speak up. And for example, speaking up to say your boss was wrong in a big meeting may not be the right thing to do. Okay, because that's going to probably have some serious consequences. But having the courage to speak up to ask for a raise you feel you deserve, that's another story. You should have the courage to do that. You should be authentic enough with yourself to be able to ask that question. And you should also, I hate the way should, scratch the shoulds, but it would benefit you. I don't like shoulds. It would benefit you to really be able to speak your voice because you can attain more of the things that you feel you need in your life. But that is, again, in respect for the common good. If you're getting what you want is going to crush somebody else, then that takes another thought or two. But live and let live is what my goal is. But live, for sure, live. Ask the question, realize it's not going to happen overnight. And let me just share this also, because I find that life has a lot of anxiety in so many ways. And it's the anxiety that creates some of the challenges. Some of the anxiety is, of course, you don't know what to expect, what's coming up next. But research from the New England Journal of Medicine says that the most productive decade of human life is 60 to 70. The second most productive decade is 50 to 60. The third is 70 to 80, and the fourth 80 to 90.
Wow.
So with all of those are in the second half of life, or after 50. So the anxiety that is so common when you're under 50, wondering, am I going to get it done? Can I get it done? I should be a millionaire by now. And I'm not. I should. Get rid of that. And just recognize that most of the things you do before 50 are your practice that you will leverage when you get past 50 and have a better understanding of why you're here in the first place. A lot of people don't step into authenticity in a serious sense until they get past 50, because all the manufactured stuff you have to get over. You have to first realize that's somebody else made that up. That's not my life. And you have to take the courage and you have more freedom then. I'm going to give you a lot of exercises to make that happen during the 5-day challenge. So the freedom will come to you and the courage and the confidence will come a lot easier.
And that, I think that's a big part of the issue to overcome, is approval. Most people are raised to be very concerned about what other people will think. And I'll do it if you want me to, or I won't do it if you don't want me to. And it takes a long time. And I think that's why it's not until we're older, when we frankly don't give a shit as much, or we have gotten over the approval issue, at least to some degree, that we can then start to come back home to, okay, if I'm not putting the locus of control out there, it's over here. Now what? Now what do I want? Who do I want to be, etc. So tell us more about the challenge, because you mentioned it, and what are some of the practical things that people will get from participating in the challenge?
It's the 5-day authentic voice challenge. So at the end of 5 days, you'll be more connected to your inner voice, to your authentic voice. Okay. So I can't tell you all the exercises, and you won't have need to come. But there are, but I do have 5 days of exercises that will take you deeper into you. They're exercises that I've done over my lifetime, over and over. On the first day, I'm going to give you one that's going to give you more freedom to really be yourself. On the second day, I'm going to give you some tips about how you can connect with your inner voice in a faster way. On the third day, Wednesday, I'm going to talk to you about red socks and the elephant and what that meant, what they have meant for me for decades, for me and my inner voice. And you're going to find your red socks and elephant. Okay. And then on Thursday, I'm going to give you some of your spiritual styles, how your spirit expresses itself. And then on Friday, we're going to talk about what you say to yourself when you don't realize you're saying it, and how you can modify that, because that has a lot to do with your subconscious and your ability to create your own future through your inner voice. So I have a lot of exciting information, and we have some prizes and a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be very exciting, very interesting, and very thought-provoking. And I'm going to take some of what is esoteric and make it practical, so you can see it in a different way, and you can step into your inner voice in some new ways.
I love the practicality. I love both the inner and outer game of business, which is part of why I'm happy to have you here. Yes. So tell us how they can find out more. I will put I'm working on getting the link over here right now, but I'll put the link in the chat below this. But just tell everyone where they can go to sign up. What's the, is it on your Facebook page? Is there a special page for it?
There is I prefer them to go to my link, which is Authentic Voice Challenge, authenticvoicechallenge.com.
Okay.
Authentic Voice Challenge. And then you're going to put the link up. Yes.
I'll put the link there. Now, because sometimes this gets aired after the particular events happen. So where else can people find information about you, or how can they connect with you, or find out more about what you just do and talk about?
Right. You can always go to my LinkedIn page, Norma Hollis, and I'm on LinkedIn. It might be Norma T. Hollis. I always forget, but it's either Norma Hollis or Norma T. Hollis on LinkedIn. Okay. And then you can also go to Gifts from Norma. That's where I should send them, giftsfromnorma.com. Because on Gifts from Norma, you have 2 links on there, and they're both free links. One is to my authenticity assessment, and the assessment gives you 9 questions related to the grid that we've been talking about, these 9 dimensions of authenticity. That's a free assessment you can take, which will give you a score to understand your authenticity level at this point. And secondly, on there is the link for the 5-day challenge. So you can find both of those there. And just keep that link, because I always put on there different events we have coming up, and either a discount or a free link, depending on what the offer is. So
giftsfromnorma.com. Okay, I will put that in the chat as well. I'm having technical challenges. Okay, so just let me write it down so I don't. Giftsfromnorma.com?
Yes.
.com. Okay, so what's one kind of final tip or hint or food for thought that you'd like to leave people with about when it comes to being authentically who we are?
The second question that was most popular when I did the research about 9 months ago is, what does authenticity feel like? What does it feel like? And I had to really think about that question. And when I thought about it deeply, what I realized is that since I have been in a state of authenticity, I haven't been anxious anymore. I used to be so anxious about what if this, what if that, what if. And I was also that manufactured life. I should be further than I am now. I should, but I wasn't. But when I finally got to the point of really realizing with greater confidence who I am
Mhm.
and what I've done and what I've yet to do and what I've accomplished and other aspects of my successes, not the shoulds that I shouldn't even be saying to myself.
Mhm.
But when I came to accept who I am and what I have done, I was pretty darn proud of myself. And I bet that will happen with you as well. So it's not always in your time. It's society will manufacture time frames for us. It's really in the time frame that it works for you. And when it happens, it's really when it's time to happen. I try to make certain plans and they just go topsy-turvy. But when I allow my life to unfold, rather than me trying to make things happen, and they happen more effectively in a way that it manifests. So that can happen for you too. I've seen it in myself and others in many different ways, but it just means relaxing and
Mm.
allowing life to happen rather than society says, make it happen, make it, jump through hoops, go through all of this, make it, manufacture it, make it. But life probably has something in store for you that's probably a real blessing for you if you let it happen. So ask yourself, are you pushing or are you allowing life to happen for you? To the degree that you can, remember that it's not till you get 50 or so that it really makes a lot of sense. And if you're over 50, then just sit with it, relax with it, leverage what your past and find so many things. I'll talk about some of that and to definitely have a chance to answer your questions on the 5-day challenge. So I do encourage you to go to Gifts from Norma and check on the 5-day challenge and join me. Love to see you there.
I love that. And I really love that last question that you asked is, are you pushing or are you allowing life to happen for you? I think that's a big question. I literally have had 2 conversations with clients so far this morning on exactly that topic. How do we pause, stop the push, check in with who we want to be, and then allow life to support us in that unfoldment instead of the constant need to prove and drive and effort and prove and prove and prove. Can we just be and let
Just
that
be,
be? So
just be.
thank you for being here and reminding us about that and the just the depth of the conversation of letting ourselves sink in and know that who we are is enough and that our authentic gifts are not gone. They may have been forgotten, but they're not gone and they're there for us to pull forward, make some space for, come back to, and express in the world so that we're being who we're meant to be here.
Yes.
And the new tagline for Bodacity is be the difference that only you can be. And this is part of this whole conversation around authenticity.
Yes.
So we will put the links to the challenge below. If you come across this recording after the challenge, by all means go to giftsfromnorma.com to be able to connect with Norma more and find out more about what she's up to, what she's doing, and just get some inspiration for being who you authentically are, because we need you to do that so that you can be the difference that only you are here to be. Thank you so much for being with us, Norma. Thank you for being here, everybody, today, and have a bodacious week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.